Hey! Guess he disappeared. Guess he disappeared for a month again and is returning again, as he would do. So to no one's surprise, I got burnt out from uni work, and as I'm rested, I decided to make a new video. A video on what? On how I do my sketchbooks. I got a comment talking about my color and composition, and at first I was like, what are you talking about? Because for me, when people mention stuff that I've done in my sketchbooks, I don't really notice it because I don't actively do it. Like when I'm sat down drawing and stuff, I don't plan it out. I don't have a plan. I don't thumbnail, which is what I'm gonna talk about in a minute. I don't thumbnail. I don't think about my colors before I do it. I don't think about my layout before I do it. I barely even think about what I'm drawing before I do it. I just do it. So from those comments, I decided to make this video to kind of break down how I fill out my sketchbooks, like lay them out, decorate them, stuff like that. Not just for other people, but also for myself. So enjoy. As I said, I don't do thumbnailing in my sketchbooks, so the pages that you're seeing now are done spontaneously. They're done on the fly. When I carry my sketchbook around, I just sit down and I bust it open. Despite me saying all that now, I'm not gonna lie, I do thumbnail, but it's not consciously. For me, consciously thumbnailing is actually like drawing it out on the page before I draw on the page, and I just don't do that. Mine is more subconscious, so like, you know, when you're thinking about what you want to draw in your head and you see it in your head, I keep it that way. I just see it in my head and I try and draw it out. That's what my thumbnailing is. Is physical thumbnailing better? Yeah, because I can actually see it and cycle through my ideas way more quickly. I just can't be asked. So yeah, I don't physically draw out my thumbnails. I just use the images in my head and just go off of there. So because all my pages are like that, I can't show you how I thumbnail them, but I can kind of show you how I compose them. Again, I did the layouts in my head, but I'll break it down into blocks to show you how they look. The biggest blocks on the pages just so happen to be the ones that I started with first, so they kind of act like the main drawing on the page that I frame the rest of it around. So with that big block, I just kind of use other varied sized blocks to fit around it. Looking at it right now, it kind of looks like Tetris. Just wanted to say. When it comes to color, I'm no genius, trust me, I'm not. But when I do get stuck on color theory or colors to use, I just look at one of these. The things that I use the most is like contrasting or complementary colors, or analogous. Contrasting and complementary colors help my pages stand out. So like if I use red or green, or orange and blue, or yellow and black, the page is going to pop out because those two colors are kind of like fighting. They're like tussling on the page, you know? And then analogous ones are like when, I think one of the drawings is like pink and it has like those hues and it's kind of soft. It's like one of them those, you know? It just looks nice. I forgot to mention that complementary contrasting colors, it makes the page really like bold and vibrant. I might have said that, but I'm emphasizing it now. If you want like a good bright page, use contrasting colors. Just be rough. Like at the end of the day, it's a sketchbook. Focus on the word sketch. So free yourself from feeling like every page needs to look nice and be presentable to like show in the video, or even to like show to people. Keep a page in your book where you just use it for scribbles or like doodles and stuff. I feel like collaging in my sketchbook is just a sly way of saying that I just glue in random trash. And by trash, I mean like food wrappers, receipts, cup noodles, sticky notes. Personally, it adds a lot of character to the pages, and it somewhat becomes like its own little journal with like small mementos. Also, side note, stuff like receipts have like weird surfaces on that, like it's weirdly like smooth, so when you like use color pens and that, they don't sit on it like the same way that you use for like paper. They kind of like slide and then they kind of like mesh. I don't just use collaging for the decoration, but it can also be used for background. The color paper that you see me using is like, it's like either construction paper or sugar paper. It has like a weird grainy texture to it. You can use that or card. It's either one is fine. Rip it, cut it, stick it in whole, I don't care. Just as long as the page isn't like pure white, at least it's got a little bit of colour to it. Like me, you're never too good to practice. As I stated before, I've always drawn women, so my knowledge of and ability of drawing men is absolute garbage. So I've started doing studies in my sketchbook to help me practice drawing up the bodies and kind of familiarising myself with male bodies and how I want to present them. Also, not just male bodies, but different body types and shapes in general. I think there's a book out there called like Fats and Folds or something, and I think it's like a series of books. I really want to get those. I've seen a lot of people use them. I can't personally say from my own personal recommendation because I don't have the book, but if I did, I would recommend it. And I mean, if you don't have the book, you can always use Pinterest. I mean, when has it ever failed you? And if you don't like Pinterest for whatever reason, that's fine. There's a multitude of other life drawing websites you can use. I'll put some on the screen right now. If you can, experiment. And by experiment, I mean like play around with like other mediums and that. Like use acrylic. I haven't used gouache, but people use gouache and it looks cool. So gouache, oil pastels. I actually hated using oil pastels back in GCSE because I didn't understand how to get them to sit on the paper. They would always like lift off because I think I was like pressing a bit too hard. But since I've started using them in my own sketchbooks, in my own personal use, I've actually come to like them and use them constantly. Watercolor, even though I don't like watercolor. Oil paints, they take ages to dry, but they're cool. Charcoal, markers, get the point. There's a lot of mediums out there. Explore, find out which one works for you and use them in your sketchbooks. I can promise you it's a lot of fun. As frustrating as they may be, it's really fun and enjoyable. For me, my sketchbook is kind of a part of myself. In a way, I love how scratchy and rough my line work is. I like how hard and bold and almost like ugly my colours can be. They may clash, they may fight. They don't play, they get down. I like how they look to me. With this being my 19th sketchbook, and I'm literally turning 20 in a week, means that I've been drawing for the past 8 years. I've always loved going back to my old sketchbooks, not just to compare my current art to my old art and just shit on how trash it is, but to see my mindset at the time, to see my interests and what I was thinking about while I was doing it. And since I carry my sketchbook with me almost everywhere I go, I can actually pinpoint where and when I was drawing certain pages. It's actually very heartwarming seeing myself trying to draw fan art from my favourite shows or draw studies of objects that look nothing alike. Like, I think I drew Fiona from Adventure Time when they did that whole like gender swap episode with like Marshall Lee and stuff, and I thought it looked so cool at the time. Tell me why when I got the book back it looked so disfigured. I was actually looking at it and I was like, this is not what I drew. I remember this looking so good. In conclusion, what I'm trying to say is to put yourself into the book, to make it yours essentially. As I said, sketchbooks are sketchbooks, so allow them to be so. I still don't know how to close off videos.